Hello, 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 hello. Wah wah wah, ba 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 damn. Wah wah wah, wah wah ba damn. Here we go. We gonna do this. Gotcha. I heard one of the blokes saying this today. I can't. Anyway, God on God. I have my YouTube, my face. Oh, what happened? What happened? Oh, what do you call it? He's doing the week. Stop doing that. The TV is pissing me off. Well, anyway, look at this. We gotta do it. It's Australia. We're in Australia. Here we go for the pre-budget announced quiet to tech, whatever it is. We'll do that.
Pre-budget announcements quiet on tech and
What the hell? What the hell? Para pique, para boom, para pow, mate. Para boom, para pow, bro. Para boom, para prow, prow, prow. English, USA default. English. What's this USA default? What's that? Apply.
Pre-budget announcements quiet on tech and startups this year. In the lead up to the 2023-2024 federal budget, there was a flurry of tech-related announcements. 12 months on, things are quieter. We're going into tomorrow's budget with less of an idea of what the startup and tech sectors can expect for them. While the focus so far has been on tax cuts and cost of living relief, the tech sector hasn't been entirely ignored. There have been a number of announcements attached to projects under the future made in Australia policy. And it's followed last year's trend of going hard on quantum. The Albanese government's national quantum strategy dominated the tech headlines in the weeks leading up to last year's budget. The strategy was part of the $1 billion earmarked for Labor's national reconstruction.
Party hector. Da-da-da. Don't do that again.
Pre-budget announcements quiet on tech and startups this year.
My hand was
in the lead up to the 2023-2024 federal budget, there was a flurry of tech-related announcements. 12 months on, things are quieter. We're going into tomorrow's budget with less of an idea of what the startup and tech sectors can expect for them. While the focus so far has been on tax cuts and cost of living relief, the tech sector hasn't been entirely ignored. There have been a number of announcements attached to projects under the future made in Australia policy. And it's followed last year's trend of going hard on quantum. The Albanese government's national quantum strategy dominated the tech headlines in the weeks leading up to last year's budget. The strategy was part of the $1 billion earmarked for Labor's National Reconstruction Fund and, as the budget papers revealed, also included $101.2 million for small business integrating quantum and AI technologies into their operations. While the 2024-25 budget announcements around the tech sector may not have been as prominent this year, the news cycle hasn't exactly been devoid of quantum. In late April, the federal and Queensland governments announced a joint $1 billion investment in Topsy Quantum. Founded in 2016 by Australian academics, Quantum aims to develop the first commercially viable, fault-tolerant quantum computer. The investment will take the form of share purchases, grants, and loans. Quantum will also establish its regional headquarters in Brisbane as part of this deal. The Quantum investment is part of the future made in Australia strategy, which focuses on advancing Australia's capabilities in high-tech sectors, and is projected to create 400 new jobs, adding to the economic impact of the technology sector in the region. Some of the other tech-focused projects under future made in Australia include $1 billion for Solar Sunshot, $566 million for Geoscience Australia, $100 million for speedier environmental approvals for businesses. The Tech Council of Australia, TCA, has also touched on quantum computing in its pre-budget submission, invoking the national quantum strategy. The TCA advocated for increased focus on quantum technology commercialization and adoption, including the upgrading of digital infrastructure critical for 5G development. The TCA also suggested refining VC tax incentives to better suit the evolving tech investment landscape and is advocating for education reforms to help investors qualify as wholesale clients. Considering the current economic climate, a budget focused on cost of living, taxes, and healthcare is to be expected. While the tech and startup sectors don't appear to be at the forefront of this year's budgetary considerations, they continue to simmer on the policy backburner. Still, we may emerge surprised come Tuesday evening. One never quite knows what could be nestled between the fat stacks of budget papers. Smart Company will be in budget lockup in Canberra, so stay tuned for all of our SME and startup related reports. To see Smart Company's full budget coverage, click here. Never miss a story. Sign up to Smart Company's free daily newsletter and find our best stories on LinkedIn. Regulatory clarity, improved investment in startups budget wishlist. LR, FinTech Australia CEO Rehan Almeida and Ryan Black, acting CEO of the Tech Council of Australia. Source, Smart Company. Australia's startups are looking for help in tomorrow's budget, with improvements to the investment environment. Regulatory clarity and tax assistance topping the sector's wishlist. Last year's budget saw $393.4 million pledged to an industry growth program to help startups and SMEs commercialize their ideas and grow their operations. But the sector this year is looking for moves to make it easier to secure investment in a still anemic fundraising environment. Ryan Black, acting CEO of the Tech Council of Australia, told Smart Company the number one request he hears from startups and small tech businesses for the budget is to help improve Australia's fundraising situation. With the venture capital landscape coming off the soaring highs of the past few years and remaining stubbornly deflated, startups have seen a significant reduction in available investment. While Black agreed the Tech Council does not want the federal government to replace the private sector, he said there are a number of things it can do to improve the private investment market. Firstly, he said, the government can overhaul the foreign investment review process. Foreign investors contribute half of total venture capital investment in Australia, but report a much more challenging review process than in the US and UK. In its pre-budget submission, the Tech Council suggested the federal government can make short-term process improvements like waiving fees for smaller firms and making better use of data. In early May, Treasurer Jim Chalmers announced plans to streamline the foreign investment review process by accelerating approvals for known investors not working in high-risk, sensitive sectors. Black said these reforms were a positive step forward but that more can be done, like introducing automatic investment approvals in industries of national priority. In terms of funding assistance and targeted deployment of public spending, the Tech Council is encouraging the government to expand the Business Research and Innovation Initiative (BRI). Currently, startups can apply for grants of up to $100,000 to demonstrate their solutions to government proposals. However, citing the success of similar procurement-like, challenge-style programs in the US and UK, the Council believes it should be expanded. We do want to see a lift in funding for that program in particular, Black said. It has sat at a fairly low funding level since it was established. And we think now is the time to really expand that program and make it something more meaningful. Some specific sectors of the startup ecosystem are looking for more targeted support. For example, FinTech Australia, the peak body representing over 400 Australian fintech businesses and startups, is calling for a renewal of the FinTech Trade and Investment Program, a $9.6 million initiative led by Austrade which helps businesses get their products and platforms into foreign markets and attract external investment. Government support for AI development is also a major focus, with the number of AI companies in Australia growing an average of 7.7% per year. According to Oxero figures, there is an interest among local startups in achieving regulatory clarity for their sector. The federal government and various agencies like ASEC have signaled ongoing interest in taking a risk-based approach to regulation amid the global AI boom. But few major changes have been made to date. While last year's budget included a 5-year, $101.2 million commitment to support small businesses integrating AI and quantum technology, the attitude this year is geared towards ensuring the regulatory infrastructure is fit for purpose and enables local AI startups to compete globally. In its submission, the Tech Council said it generally supported the government's AI regulation approach, particularly as it relates to putting guardrails on development and deployment in high-risk settings while arguing it should take an informed, coordinated, and consistent strategy that would encourage AI development and adoption in Australia. Something we're really hearing from the startup side of the market is they want to see more focus on driving the growth of AI capability here in Australia as well, Black said. That means, beyond the regulatory aspects of AI, how we can drive investment, how do we build the skills base, And how do we ensure we've got the right infrastructure? Some budget wishlist requests from startups mirror long-held desires from SME leaders. One software startup founder speaking to Smart Company said the biggest thing the federal government could do to support the local ecosystem would be to increase the instant asset tax write-off threshold. This position is supported by the Council of Small Business Australia, COSBOA, which argued in its pre-budget submission for an increase in the threshold to $150,000 for eligible depreciable assets, with the turnover threshold to be increased to $50 million. To see Smart Company's full budget coverage, click here. Never miss a story. Sign up to Smart Company's free daily newsletter and find our best stories on LinkedIn. Eva Lawler puts NT Health on notice after department budget blows out by $200 million, ABC News. In short, the latest NT budget has revealed its health department overspent by more than $200 million in the current financial year. Chief Minister Eva Lawler has called for the spending to be reined in, but hasn't clarified if there will be penalties for the department's executives. What's next? The NT government is calling for the Commonwealth to put more money into the embattled sector, as it deals with an overabundance of chronic disease patients. Executives of the Northern Territory's beleaguered health department have been put on notice after its annual budget blew out by more than $200 million. The figures were laid bare in the latest NT budget, which showed the substantial overspend by the health department, taking its costs to nearly $2.2 billion for 2023 to 24. Chief Minister Eva Lawler said the blowout to the health budget was of great concern at a time when the territory faced more than $11 billion in net debt and rising. They need to work on getting their budget back into a better position, Ms. Lawler said. Before the end of the financial year, they'll need to make some changes. Ms. Lawler was asked if senior executives would be reprimanded over the budget blowout, as has previously been the government's policy, but did not confirm if this would happen. It is a tough area in health to keep your budget under control, but that's the role of the CEO to keep health's budget under control, Ms. Lawler said. Call for more Commonwealth funding. Health is one of the most challenging portfolios in the territory due to the large amount of chronically ill patients and aging infrastructure at the NT's largest medical facility, Royal Darwin Hospital. Since COVID-19, there have also been consistent struggles with attracting and retaining frontline health workers, with the department instead forced to rely on costly agency staff and locums. NT Health has been contacted for comment. Ms. Lawler said we should be getting more money for health from the Commonwealth. We have a sicker population, we have fast distances, we need more money, she said. Lawler's comments criticized by unions. The NT branches of the Australian Medical Association, AMA-NT, the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation, AMF-NT, and the Australian Salaried Medical Officers Federation, ASMUF-NT, have all criticized the comments by Ms. Lawler. Thomas Fowles, of ASMUF-NT, came to the defense of NT Health CEO Marco Bryceneau over the spending, saying he was the fourth person in the top job over the past 5 years. Firing health leadership is not going to solve the ongoing failures of territory and Commonwealth governments, Mr. Fowles said. ASMUF-NT suggests that the health minister support Dr. Bryceneau to do his job and get red tape out of the way of clinicians attempting to deliver safe and efficient health care. AMA-NT President Robert Parker said it was very unfair criticism of the department. I don't think any CEO at the moment would be able to rein in spending in a department that's constantly beset by crises, by code yellows, by incredibly high activity levels, he said. And MEF-NT Branch Secretary Kath Hatcher said many territory nurses and midwives were choosing to work in nursing agencies rather than full-time for the Department of Health due to the work and pay conditions. If the NT government budgeted properly for the Department of Health, they wouldn't be overspending, Ms. Hatcher said in a statement. Social services sector unhappy with budget. Tuesday's territory budget has also left some in the social services sector unhappy. Caitlin Weatherby Fell, the CEO of the top-end women's legal service in Darwin, said funding for critical domestic, family and sexual violence services fell short of what was needed. The budget papers allocated $70 million towards domestic violence in the NT, where rates were Australia's highest, but Ms. Weatherby Fell said only $30 million of that was new money. It doesn't give a whole lot of hope for the sector, which is crying out for funding right now for frontline services to be able to be meeting levels of demand for women and their children escaping DV, she said. Sally Sievers, the CEO for the NT Council of Social Services, said while the budget tipped massive amounts into crime and policing, more funding was needed for early intervention. It provides a false sense of security to Territorians that community safety will be achieved only by more police and prisons, she said.
Wow. Oh, this, I thought it was, it's already gone to back, is it? What the hell did you, get it out, you idiot. Doesn't it have, oh well, too bad.
From endless cost revisions to a new employment program, here's what's in the 2024 federal budget for disability, ABC News. Between significant revisions to the National Disability Insurance Scheme (NDIS) and new employment initiatives, disability was a key part of this year's federal budget. But now the dust has settled, the standout questions, particularly regarding the NDIS, don't center on the specifics that were in the papers. They're about those that weren't. Here are the key takeaways. NDIS growth moderation. It's been a massive few months for the scheme, with a major review handed down in December recommending sweeping changes and the government introducing draft legislation to kickstart that process. Life updates. For all the latest news about this year's federal budget, follow our blog. The 2024 budget papers say the government expects those changes will offset increases in NDIS payments to the tune of $14.4 billion over the next 4 years. The government isn't calling this a saving, but growth moderation. The government says spending on the scheme is now projected to rise to $60.7 billion by 2027 to 28 and, thanks to its action, annual growth is forecast at 9.2%. The government last year announced an annual growth target of 8% to try to rein in costs. At the time, annual spending had been growing at about 14%. NDIS Minister Bill Shorten took through the measures on ABC's afternoon briefing program, which you can watch in full below. Mr. Shorten says 2 practical changes will help realize 95% of the projected $14.4 billion figure. Roughly 2/3 of those savings, he says, will come from clamping down on intra-plan inflation when a participant's plan is spent sooner than the period for which it was agreed, which can then lead to a top-up. The rest comes from implementing the NDIS review's proposal to change the way participant budgets are set. What we want to do is hire trained assessors, and we want to look at a person's total needs. And instead of constructing a plan brick by brick, we look at a person's overall needs and give them a budget, he says. We estimate that's actually going to save money. Mr. Shorten told participants the government remained committed to the scheme, saying it will increase in numbers and we are increasing investment, but we need to bring it to a more reasonable growth level. He emphasized the transition to a needs-based assessment would be co-designed with the disability community. The talk of change has fed into fear in the disability community that it could come at the expense of people's support. Elle Gibbs, the acting CEO of Disability Advocacy Network Australia, says many people with disability are worried about exactly how the budget will affect them. The NDIS is an essential public service for people with disability and families, providing life-changing and life-saving supports every day, she says. The budget has revealed big changes to the scheme. Right at the time when the NDIS review and the Disability Royal Commission have shown how far from equal or included we are.
Okay, I like to say that people with disability that got wheelchairs, they got problems, they can't cook, they got problems with walking, problems with drinking water, problems with everything. Now, we need the government to understand that these people have families and other members of the families very interested, and they want people like One Door Mental Health, any other services out there that could help. So we need the budget to be mixed a little bit to fix their medication, way of living day to day, helping one another, get out, do things that you never done before. Because if you miss out on not going out and finding these companies to help your disability support and in your mental health and all that, you might miss out. So the government need to budget it and to where the money is going, how the scheme is going, how the things are going. It could not work if it fails or someone did not get it right because they went to apply to it, went to the doctors and got all the certificate, everything, and you could not get into the NDIS program. So therefore, we need to all work together, listen and reply. Some social people or social workers need encouragement that we are disability. We'll provide with our NDIS money to pay them and help in many ways and many other things that implant into the government because we're getting ripped off. We're getting ripped off and we're not getting what we want. And sometimes it's just a lot and it's just crazy. We don't know much. We don't know. So we would like to say, please, we would like to protest for justice, for freedom, so our disability support pension and other things that we got not to be lost, and to our family to say something like, oh, my son, oh, my daughter, you're wasting your time and they're ripping you off. And it's crazy. If you did not make it to NDIS and you got disqualified or you're not allowed in the NDIS or you try to go into it or you apply to it and you fail twice or three, keep going, keep trying. Hopefully love, care, thank you, beautiful, everything. The government needs to work a little bit harder, make it a little bit easier, and how and where the future is going.
R. We must not see our essential supports cut or our continued exclusion from the community. What did the ENDIS review recommend? It made 26 recommendations and detailed close to 140 actions, including hinging access the scheme on functional impairment rather than automatically qualifying through medical diagnosis, a new early intervention pathway, set up and transitioning some people with disability to state and territory disability services, referred to as foundational supports. The government has also pledged an additional $468.7 million for the scheme over 4 years, which includes more funding for fraud prevention, as well as an evidence advisory committee to provide advice about the kinds of supports that work for participants. There's also $129.8 million over 2 years for consultation work to respond to the findings of the ENDIS review. Foundational supports were recently the focus of a political stoush between the federal and state governments. A pledge of $11.6 million over 2 years was made towards creating a foundational support strategy in the 2023-24 mid-year budget update. The government says National Cabinet will consider that strategy later this year, with an investment in the supports themselves to be detailed in future. Economic updates. Ms. Gibbs says foundational supports must be in place before any changes to the scheme take effect. The ENDIS has more than 649,000 participants, according to the most recent quarterly report. However, the vast majority of the estimated 4.4 million Australians with disability are not on the scheme. An employment service revamp. One of the biggest challenges for people with disability continues to be finding and keeping a job. The unemployment rate of working-age people with disability is twice that of those without disability. The budget aims to address this with a new specialist disability employment program at a cost of $227.6 million over 5 years. To replace the existing Disability Employment Services, DES, by July next year. The new program will seek to shift the culture in employment services for people with disability, the announcement says. When people with disability join DES agencies, they're supposed to be supported to complete job applications, prepare for interviews, and undertake relevant training. But advocates have long had questions about their efficacy, as some people have been with these agencies for lengthy periods with no results. Concerns have also been raised the model is more beneficial for providers than people with disability. While a Disability Royal Commission report found DES was failing to provide appropriate support. At a glance, The new service will be able to accommodate a further 15,000 people each year. That includes people who are volunteers or only have the capacity to work 8 hours or less a week. Employers who hire workers with disability will be able to access up to $10,000 in wage subsidies to ensure people have the support they need in the workplace. The government has also put a price tag of $23.3 billion over 4 years since setting up a new Disability Employment Center of Excellence. It says the center, which was an election promise, will provide information and training so employment services offer a better quality service. People with Disability Australia President Merrick Jonker says the measures don't go far enough. There's tinkering at the edges on employment for people with disability, but we've been calling for a radical shift. We didn't see that, she says. It's not clear how the government will support the transition to open employment for all people with disability. We remain concerned measures announced tonight may continue to entrench segregated employment and deny people with disability access to mainstream opportunities. What else is and isn't in the budget? First, here's what was included. An extra $2.6 million has been set aside for the National Disability Abuse and Neglect Hotline and the Complaints Resolution and Referral Service. They facilitate the confidential reporting of abuse and receive complaints about disability services outside the NDIS. Now for what wasn't included, at least officially. Budget breakdown, what's in it for you? Advocates were disappointed there was no explicit mention of funding for the government's response to the Disability Royal Commission, which wrapped up last September after more than 4 years of hearings. Social Services Minister Amanda Rishworth did not answer questions about whether the budget had any money for the Royal Commission response, but said the Commonwealth has been working closely with states and territories to form a position on the 85 joint recommendations. She reiterated governments were still aiming to provide an initial response by mid-2024. Some people had also been hoping for a boost to the Disability Support Pension, DSP. While the budget has included some cost of living and Centrelink-related measures, the DSP was untouched. How does the budget impact you? Tell us your story. Posted 2 hours ago, 2 hours ago, May 15, 2024 at 2:46 p.m. Updated 36 meters ago, 36 minutes ago, May 15, 2024 at 4:15 p.m.
Today is Tuesday, it's 14th of May 2024, and this is my dad's hand and arm, all bruised everywhere. Sorry. This is his hand.
What the hell happened to that bloke, man? What's wrong with this? Hector, calm down. That's disgusting.
Emily Madahi was injured when attempting to use a ramp to disembark a transport bus. ABC News. This service may include material from Agence France Presse, AFP App 10, Reuters, AAP, CNN and the BBC World Service, which is copyright and cannot be reproduced. AEST equals Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is 10 hours ahead of GMT, Greenwich Mean Time.
Okay, the bloke got injured while he was going on a bus or something. That's disgusting, bro. Video man was injured when attempting to use ramp in this December or this. Well, my God, man, my God, bro. Oh, the same bloke, is it? What happened? What's this same bloke doing? What is he like?
Transperth investigating after wheelchair user injured and fall from bus ramp, ABC News. In short, Bimini Matahi, 71, fell out of his wheelchair while using a Transperth bus ramp that was not deployed correctly. The Public Transport Authority said correct procedures for wheelchair passengers were not followed by the driver. What's next? Investigations are continuing and the authority says further action may be taken. Mariam Matahi's father, wheelchair-reliant Bimini, takes 2 buses to get to and from their home to Beatty Park Swimming Pool, where he does regular water walking for his health and fitness. The Public Transport Authority, PTA, offers wheelchair accessibility on buses in the network, and all its vehicles are able to be lowered to the curb and are equipped with ramps. But Ms. Matahi told Nadia Mitsapula's on ABC Radio Perth that on the afternoon of May 9 those systems failed her father when he got to his stop. My father asked the bus to stop. He rang the bell and the bus driver stopped, she said. Instead of bringing the bus lower using the hydraulic system that they always do for the people who have wheelchairs, the driver apparently didn't do that. My dad asked him a couple of times that if he can bring the bus lower and then open the ramp. He refused, he ignored him, and he just opened the ramp on a very steep angle and asked him to go out. Dad has come face down. Ms. Matahi said her father felt pressured to leave and subsequently fell out of his chair. My dad has come face down, falling off his wheelchair, and people ran out of the bus and basically took this poor 71-year-old semi-disabled person off the ground and put him back on his wheelchair, she said. Ms. Matahi said her father sustained numerous injuries and could not get out of bed without assistance. He has injured his knee and right elbow very badly, she said. The whole arm is basically bruised black and it's so painful. They believe that the tendons have been torn and some small fracture might have happened. We were just so lucky that his head didn't hit the curb and he didn't die. CCTV confirms account. PTA spokesman David Hines said a preliminary investigation and review of the CCTV footage on the bus had largely confirmed Mr. Matahi's account. He said the problem appeared to have started when another passenger pressed the stop button before Mr. Matahi. The bell in the wheelchair bay is the thing that alerts the driver to the fact that a wheelchair person is coming off. So he gets all that stuff ready, Mr. Hines said. Because the driver didn't realize that the man in the wheelchair was getting off. He let off the person who'd rung the bell through the door in the middle of the bus, and then started pulling off. Mr. Matahi then called out to let the driver know he needed to disembark. So the driver then slowed down and looked for another spot to drop him, Mr. Hines said. But the fact that he'd moved away from the approved bus stop, which has got the hard stand at the right height and so on, he shouldn't really have moved away from it. He did his best to find another spot and extended the ramp, but it was too low. He should have lowered the bus as well. It was not our finest hour. Trust in service shattered. Mr. Hines said the PTA prided itself on providing an accessible service and it appeared the driver had not followed the procedures for assisting passengers in wheelchairs. The driver should have realized from looking that the ramp was going to be at the wrong steepness because it had gone down to ground level, he said. We have handbooks that give drivers procedures and protocols that they're supposed to follow, and they weren't all followed in this case. Mr. Hines said the contractor that ran that route would be speaking to the driver and further action may be taken. Ms. Matahi said the incident had shattered her faith in the service and she was not sure how her father would continue to be independent or attend his pool sessions in future. I'm not going to let him go on the bus anymore because I can't trust any of my loved ones will be safe, she said. Mornings with Nadia Mitsapula Zislav on ABC Radio Perth free weekday from 8:30–11 a.m. Tune in on 7:20 a.m., digital radio or the ABC Listen app. Get local news, stories, community events, recipes and more each fortnight.
Wow. do 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 Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. What the hell? What have you done? What have you done? What? Okay, bro, okay. Stop it, Hector. Something, you did something?
Belting out John Farnham classics and traveling through time, this musical is like no other. ABC News. As the crowd trickles into the community hall in regional Victoria, a group of teens gather backstage. In minutes, all their hard work is about to come to life, and the air is electric with nervous excitement. But for these students, the show carries a different weight. We are giving them an opportunity to be the main characters of a story because people don't think they can, and they absolutely can, drama teacher Laurie says. Welcome to Sunbury and Macedon Ranges Specialist School in Victoria. There's roughly 140 students. They may present with autism, physical or medical needs, Laurie says. I feel like I'm the luckiest teacher in the world because the kids are really cool. It's been a few years since the school put on a production of any sort, but colleagues Laurie and Darcy are determined to bring them back. Where some schools might attempt a classic like Grease or West Side Story, the team at Sunbury and Macedon are doing something totally different. We are time traveling, Laurie says. She and music teacher Darcy have created a production that sees 3 students who are studying John Farnham travel through time to meet him during his big hits of the 1960s, 70s, 80s and 90s. He is Australian musical royalty, he's in our every being and every bone, and I think that familiarity will help the students in this journey, Laurie says. Key to the story are the 3 students who travel through time to meet the 4 Farnhams, who in turn perform one of Farnsey's classic hits. They've got the story down. The next challenge is picking who gets to be front of stage. Meet the students. The musical is for students in years 10 to 12, and while some are reluctant to put up their hands, a few are very keen to be involved. For a number of students, their motivation to take part is both to show themselves and show others who've doubted them that they can. One of them is Chelsea. She was 5 when she was struck by a car which left her with an acquired brain injury and, as she describes, other ongoing issues. After my accident, I remember putting on shows in my living room and stuff, but after a while I understood that I'll never be the same. You know, she says in ABC TV's This Is Going to Be Big. I just remember my whole life loving to perform. I started performing from the age of 3 when I was in a dance school, and I just never thought that I'd do it again. For Josh, getting on stage and belting out a Farnham number isn't remotely close to what he wants to do once he leaves school. A member of the Australian Air Force cadets, he wants to be a jet pilot. And, while the Air Force has said it needs more background on his disabilities, it has not said no. In the meantime, Josh is setting about challenging himself in a different way. The reason why I wanted to be in the musical production is I wanted to do something new and get my confidence up, he says. If this will be my shot at a lead role, why the hell not go for it? Despite being a keen creative and illustrator, being bullied at previous schools had knocked Hallie's confidence and her courage to give performing a crack. But not anymore. I have an autism spectrum disorder and I was having difficulty understanding things and not doing things right, she says. I had a couple of people that kept bullying me and they would call me retarded and pathetic and stupid and an idiot. It just hurt me really bad. I want to be in the production because I always wanted to perform on stage since I was little, but I've never had the courage to. But now I feel more courage to do it. It has been a while since Elise was center stage, performing with a choir in primary school. Before now, navigating her generalized anxiety disorder, seizures and the search for the right school did not leave her a lot of time to embrace other opportunities such as the musical. I thought it would maybe help boost my confidence and, it gave me something to do, she says. I just felt like I'm doing better now. I should do something fun and try and do something new. I'm really proud of myself for actually getting in there and doing stuff. Songs close to home. As audition day rolls around, there's some stiff competition. Josh, Hallie and Elise are all going for a John Farnham role, with Josh and Hallie gunning for the 80s version of The Star. As Hallie shares, getting the part would mean a lot. I really want to try to get the role of John Farnham so I can sing my aunt's favorite song, You're the Voice, she says. My Aunt Irene. She was a very important person to me, but she died before I even became an adult. I want to try and audition for a good John Farnham role for her because I know that she would have loved it and she would have been very proud. As for Chelsea, she has her sights on being one of the students. It's just so amazing for me to have an opportunity like this, she says. I've always loved being in shows and stuff, one, because of the attention, but also I love to perform. But, like in real showbiz, not everyone can get the lead role. So, who makes the cut? Farnham's revealed. An announcement comes over the PA. All the students who auditioned are asked to go to the music room to find out who got what part. One by one, the students are called in to find out who they'll be playing. Hallie gets 80s John Farnham and the chance to sing You're the Voice for her Aunt Irene. Chelsea gets her wish to be a time-traveling student and Elise gets a role as another student and one of the dancers. The staff decide Josh suits 60s Farnham, having sung Sadie, the cleaning lady, the best. But they have a special extra role for him in mind too. I wanted to get the 80s John Farnham, but not everything works out, Josh says on learning about his part. I was pretty much humbled by the fact that I managed to even get a role. With the cast chosen, the team led by Laurie and Darcy have 9 months to turn their hard work into a stage-ready performance. For the most part, everything these kids have to do is harder for them than it is for most other kids. There may be some struggles. We're going to have some moments, Laurie says. But I think if we can get them through that, there is nothing like that feeling of that applause and having done something on stage and it being successful. The highs and lows of rehearsals. To make sure their musical debuts are a raging success, the students knuckle down at rehearsals. Lines are being learned, Farnham hits are being practiced and belted out, and choreography and props are starting to come together. Unlike the other students, though, Josh's practice involves more than just becoming 60s Farnham, he also has to master a new instrument. We thought that Josh would be good at the bagpipe role, Laurie says. Because, 1, he wants to be in the 80s song and, number 2, he has a cadet's background, so he actually has that stand, march, attention posture. Josh takes learning the pipes in his stride and embraces them, and the kilt they come with. It's just like, wow, we're literally one step closer to performing to a live audience and we're all a bit nervous because we've never performed in front of a live crowd, he says. Nerves aside, Elise's rehearsals are having a much bigger impact on her mental health and her confidence. I was worried about what people would think about me because of my old school, people not really liking me and saying hurtful words and that, she says. It made me feel like I wasn't good enough for the stage, but I thought I need to give it a go. There's been some really big changes that have helped me from the production. It's improved my anxiety so much now. But, unfortunately, not everyone finds it such smooth sailing. As Laurie predicted, the rehearsals come with ups and downs. It's challenging for some of them. Remembering a line is hard for anyone, let alone a student that possibly has an acquired brain injury or anxiety or autism. She says. It's pretty exhausting for most of them. You can physically see it, their energy levels going down. During one rehearsal, Chelsea begins to fade rapidly. She describes feeling blurry before she faints. Sorry, I'm just so. It's way too much for me, Chelsea says as she comes to. I've had rehearsal for 3 days and a lot of these rehearsals are now getting so exhausting for me. Speaking about it later, Chelsea says she becomes fatigued faster since the accident she was involved in. At the end of the day, I decided to keep going because I knew that if I had given up that it wouldn't get me anywhere, she says. I want to be up on that stage celebrating with my friends and the teachers and having my family and stuff and my closest friends watching me. Hallie is also dealing with her own fears in the lead up to the show. Well, it makes me nervous to think about it sometimes, but I'm hoping that I do not get sick because I don't want to miss out, she says. I just get really stressed out easily because of my high anxiety levels and I like to get into my zone. Despite their joys and challenges, the show is getting tantalizingly close. So close it's enough to drive everyone to keep going. Countdown to curtain call. As the show day fast approaches, the school and the production get some bad news. Elise has been admitted to hospital and diagnosed with Crohn's disease. It's not clear if she'll be back in time for the opening, but Laurie says her family is hopeful she'll be well enough to make it. In the meantime, the group pushes on with final touches to get the show ready to roll, including costumes to transform each student into their Farnham. Putting on my costume for the very first time, it was actually quite exciting, Josh says. The pants were a bit tight but, around the waist end, but apart from that I think we're pretty much good to go. As well as finding the perfect mullet wig for her transformation, Hallie has designed the art on all of the merchandise for the show. It made me feel really happy that everyone was starting to wear it and everyone loved it because I always make sure that other people are proud of me first. Before I'm proud of myself, she says. As the energy and excitement begin to swell ahead of the performance, the group is greeted with a pleasant surprise. Elise, she's back. Lori exclaims. She's not in hospital anymore. She's back and she's going to be able to perform. Phew. I'm so happy. I was thrilled when I knew that I would be able to go to the show because my concern was missing out, Elise says. I'm feeling really excited because my parents are going to see it and they've been dying to see it for months and months and months. Adding to the high, the students receive a message of support from John Farnham's team. John will be very excited to see these young people singing some of his favorite songs, it says. These songs have a very special place in John's heart and he is very happy sharing them for this wonderful production. Backstage, the adrenaline is kicking in. Everything that we've been practicing for is actually now coming to light, Josh says. It's just unbelievable. It's actually finally happening. How is Hallie feeling? Nervous as heck. Heart beating rapidly, feeling anxious and shaking a little bit, she says. I'm wearing my Auntie Irene's necklace, and I'm also wearing her perfume tonight, just so she's there with me. Even Chelsea is feeling the jitters. This is where it gets freaky being on stage, she says. But there's not much more time to think about it because within moments the curtains are up and it's showtime. I think we've all nailed it. The students start the show to a volley of laughs at a joke about some older rocker called John Farnhouse. Josh with his 60s blonde bob is the first to perform. He enthralls the crowd and comes off stage electric with pride. A lot of people underestimate people with a disability and what I actually hope for this show to achieve is saying, hey, you don't give us enough credit for what we actually can do, Josh says from backstage. I think so far we've gone past halfway, so we've all gone pretty well. Nothing's gone wrong, yet, he laughs. I think we've all nailed it tonight. Hallie also delivers her rendition of You're the Voice to rapturous applause. Finally done it. I feel relieved after all of that, Hallie says. I felt so much anxiety just pushing through it. But thankfully, I got through it and I did it. I know that my friends and my family will be proud of me, but, more importantly, I need to be proud of myself and love myself for who I am because I know that I can do it. As the evening draws to a close, the enormity of what they've achieved dawns on the students. Many are ecstatic and riding the high that comes with performing live, but others are contemplating how special and meaningful the entire process has been. At the end of this amazing experience, I'm so proud, Chelsea says. High school isn't all about, just reading and maths and stuff. It's about those days of living your lives and feeling like you can act the way you are in front of people, and not be ashamed to say what you think. That sentiment is echoed by Hallie, who sums it up best. We feel like we need to be something, but we actually have to be just ourselves. Credits. Reporter and digital producer Georgia Hitch. Photography, Fremantle Media, Truce Films and Kelly Gardner. Videos, Fremantle Media and Truce Films. Stream This is going to be big on ABC iVuno. Odyssey format by ABC News Story Lab.
Well, the NDIS is forecast to be the second fastest growing expense in the budget. For more, let's bring in the President of People with Disability Australia, Mareka Jonkers in Brisbane. Good morning to you. Gosh, we've been talking about the NDIS for a long time because we know that it had been blowing out in a way that Bill Shorten, the Minister, had been concerned about it being able to survive. What did you hear last night about its future that made you either feel better or worse?
Oh, good morning, everyone. What I heard about the NDIS last night was basically no information. What we really need as a sector is details to flesh this out. There's been an NDIS review talking about the changes they're planning to make, but it contains no details, so Treasury hasn't been able to cost them it's not in the budget, so we are none the wiser. We do tentatively welcome the committee that's been set up to guide the NDIS going forward. That's only going to work if people with disability have a seat at the table, because we know what's working at the NDIS and what's not at the moment. And nobody but us as disabled people have a stronger interest in making the scheme sustainable, because our lives literally depend on this working. I do have an extreme concern that in the very forward projections, there's talk of the scheme cost being cut by $14.4 million, and we'd like to really know how that's happening, if that's getting rid of red tape and bureaucracy, because it can't come at the expense of people getting the care and support that they need.
Yes, that cut level, the 14 million, is the what they're suggesting is going to be where they find fraudulent activities, or they've been able to suggest that they can pull that back as a bit of a saving. We were just talking to Joe Newberry in Adelaide, who is a renter down there, finding it pretty tough. For people with a disability, when we talk about the cost of living and renting prices and housing, it comes with another added challenge, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The three of those intersect in a way that makes life very difficult. You need housing to be accessible. We do welcome that there has been some relief in cost of living with Job Seeker and some of the payments. The disability support pension has been left out of those, so that's making life's more expensive with less money for people who are on that particular payment. When it comes to housing, there's this huge opportunity right now. They're going to build all of this housing. We really call for every single dollar that's being spent on housing to build it universally so that it's accessible for everyone, because when we build housing that's accessible, literally anyone can live in it, whether they have a disability or not. That's one of the recommendations in the Royal Commission, and to end segregation in housing. So there's this amazing opportunity on the table, and it's not mentioning making that housing that's being built actually accessible at the same time. So I'd really like to call to see that happen, along with the support for domestic violence, to also be not a dollar spent that doesn't include accessible, inclusive support services. Really, it's about having a person with a disability who has a seat at the table right now when these great new initiatives are being rolled out, so that we can see where we could, for very little money, it's usually more creativity, make it so literally anybody who needs housing, including those who are fleeing domestic and family violence, can utilize the services and provisions. My other major concern out of the budget is there's not a single mention of funding the Royal Commission. It's been running for years. People with disability have relived all of our traumatizing stories, and we did that in a hope for a better future. And if something's not funded, it's not happening. So it's another missed opportunity, because that provided a roadmap forward for a lot of these issues that we're now talking about, from cost of living to housing to education. There's a lot of answers in that report.
You raised some really good points. As the President of People with Disability Australia, Marika Jonkers, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Gloomy standard of living outlook not surprising, Tanner, ABC News. Finance Minister Lindsay Tanner says he is not surprised by an opinion poll finding Australians are increasingly pessimistic about their standard of living. The news poll in today's Australian newspaper shows that the number of people who expect a fall in their standard of living has more than doubled since the election, from 18% last November to 43% now. Mr. Tanner has told ABC News Radio the gloomier outlook among voters reflects the current difficult times with the international credit crunch, interest rate increases, and higher oil and food prices. In the circumstances we're dealing with, it's probably not surprising that people are less optimistic than they were, say, 12 months ago, when these factors weren't really there to anything like the same degree, he said. Opposition finance spokesman Peter Dutton says the news poll figures show that the public have lost confidence in the government's handling of the economy. The consumer and business sentiment held up well until the last election, and the turning point when people's confidence fell quickly was November 25th. Since Mr. Rudd was elected, and figures have gone south since then, he said. I think the Australian public had much greater confidence in the coalition's ability to deal with international economic matters. The public has formed a view that Mr. Rudd is all spin and no substance when it comes to public policy. Posted July 2, 2082, July 2008, with July 2, 2008 at 8:32 a.m. Updated July 2, 2082, July 2000. Mount Isa residents doing it tough amid cost of living pressures, ABC News. A Christian outreach center in Mount Isa says it is not surprised by the findings of a new report that has shown more financial pain is on the way for low-income earners. The Queensland Council of Social Services' 5th annual cost of living report has found unemployed households are struggling to reach a basic standard of living. Pastor Keith Christie says his church has been busy helping people in the mining city who are doing it tough. The cost of living in Mount Isa is far different to what it is in the cities, he said. Some of the people that we've dealt with recently have all been married people who are doing it tough, and they are stuck in a rut and they can't get out of it. All these things that mount up, that push people out of work, I can't see how it is possible at all for people to live on some of the money that they get. Posted July 10th, 201,000.
Okay, we're living in a rough time. We're living in a heavy time. We're living in a incredible time. We're living in a outrageous time. We're living in a mental health, government, army, war, crazy. The price has gone up. Our biscuits, they used to be 12 in the packet, now there's 9. We hear that. The apples, you buy 2 apples, $3. You know, it's ridiculous. But we can buy a bag of apples. I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You make your own mind up, and hopefully you are beautiful. Hopefully you are beautiful. We love you. We love you. We need more. We need love. We need care. We understand. Get out. Get out. Get out. Relaxation, mindfulness, groups, everything that your government needs to do will be done according to time. Time is an ascent to life, and our experience of crying. I feel like crying. I'm nervous now. I'm very, very nervous. I don't know why I'm shaking, but I love you. I love you. I love you. This is crazy time. You might not understand nothing what is going on, but with me, you're safe. You're beautiful. I love you. See you later. Goodbye. Thank you. I love you.